North Korea is a problem. The problem will be taken care of. We are sending an armada.
Morning, guys. Yeah, no, just a little snippet video there. I thought it was, a good summary for those who don't really track the Korean issue over. You might be on the other side of the world, so you don't get access to it as much. It's pretty big news here in Asia. Look, it's been big news though for a long time. It's been probably 10 years that they've been discussing this this issue since they did the first nuclear test, and it's big. Remained an issue for the whole time. It hasn't really escalated yet. Now Trump's a new character, a new player. Maybe he's going to do something, but he's not a fool. And I don't think that the North Koreans are crazy either. I think they're just more just a dictator trying to keep power. And so I don't know how it's going to play out. Hopefully it doesn't flash into something big. Otherwise that would be extremely risk off. And especially for dollar yen, because it is related so close to North Korea, and as a safe haven as well, it's should gain a lot of strength. Depends though. I mean, it's like, well, if somehow they got pulled into it, is it actually a safe haven? Maybe it's not. Maybe US dollar become king and Swiss will become king. But an immediate reaction would be dollar yen strength, you'd think, unless they themselves were hit in retaliation. Now, that being said, it's not the main game in town. The main game in town is buying risk on. Well, why is the risk on? These US GDP numbers are pretty weak. Why are we buying? In North Korea, test fired another missile, but you can see that the market shrugged that off and has quickly gone into buying dips in the dollar yen. The main thing being this US government is shutdown has been averted. Now it was a pretty big test coming for Trump. He passed it, in the early hours of Asia, so that's, going to lead to risk on. You've seen a second rally here. Now, a lot of Asia was away for May Day, so is most of Europe. So the market's probably going to be pretty quiet until start of the US session. Other notable movement here is the Aussie dollar has got back above 75. I mean, Chinese PMIs were nothing stellar, but weren't that weak either. Still both expansionary, and we're back above 75. Short squeezing now. Stops might be hit on this particular pair. It's a little bit dangerous in the way that it's rallying for those shorts, because it has been a pretty strong conviction short. Just hasn't had any follow through. Now that's that's price action dictating you that it's not going lower, especially as it didn't make that fresh low and you had that big reversal on that US data. And this is hard to sell into, right? So short term anyway, you're going to have that that short squeeze, and we're getting that right now. I wouldn't mind re-establishing shorts around 75.40. I think the path of least resistance is still lower, and it's pretty relatively easy. You can have your stop at 75.70 or 75.80. It shouldn't be hit in most scenarios unless the US, the Fed becomes dovish on Thursday and NFP misses on Friday. Both those things can happen. They've got room to do that, and in fact, I think the the Fed's going to sort of signal, I suspect, whether June's on the table or not at this meeting. And the market's priced in 65% for June, and the meeting on Thursday is they're not going to raise in this meeting, but I think that the guidance has been so strong lately that if they're planning on not raising, they're going to let us know pretty forcefully in June, and so those odds can drop considerably. Whereas if they do sort of hint that they are going to raise in June, or it's on the table and quite live, then the odds might firm up a little bit more. But a lot of US dollar rally already, so it's not going to be that big a deal if they do raise in June. And definitely doesn't have the power, I think, to completely derail the euro rally or derail the pound rally. But you might get better opportunities to buy. If anything, the pound's acting like a champ. We've had some weak news over the weekend. You had the polls tightening a little bit in the general election race, and you've had the first sort of summit on the Brexit from the EU, and they were pretty hostile and pretty aggressive. But the market's been able to shrug that off. That wasn't maybe it's just because the UK is away, but that was not aggressive selling, and it's held the 129 so far. Yeah. Now, I suspected we were going lower today, and I didn't think it was a bad little sell. I did sell up here at the open, but it's definitely showing some resilience. So I'm not really have a conviction on that either. When pound is rallying, so when dollar yen's rallying and pound yen's rallying, it's hard to sell the pound, and so the pound really needs a bit more than what we got in terms of its news. And so it's pound yen is making fresh highs. I don't think you can aggressively sell the pound while that's happening. So it's probably not the trigger that you're looking for. If you're a bear, you want something bigger than what we got. It didn't really make that much movement. RBA should be a pretty much non-event. Depends on what they focus on, right? I mean, the jobs numbers are pretty strong. If they're balanced to upbeat, then definitely can't. I don't see it's going to be a catalyst for major downside. I don't see how they can be majorly, given our data here locally, I don't see how they can be majorly dovish. I mean, if the dovish is going to be along the timeline horizon, trying to push back any expectations of a rate hike mid next year, or but opening the door for a rate cut, which would be very bearish tomorrow, and even if they have no intention of cutting, opening the door for rate cut would be the most bearish sort of result. But I don't think you're going to get that. Yeah, that's and if we do get that short squeeze, it might be a nice little sell into that short squeeze on the back of that, and given the risk events coming up for the rest of the week. NFP could easily bounce back after the last month, and so could the Fed could easily come out, with an open mind about the June rate hike, so doing no damage to the US dollar. It's your risk reward, I think, higher is pretty good on the sell. But a lot of what we wanted for the sell here in the Aussie is coming from protectionist talk from the US, and if that tones down, then a lot of the immediate selling pressure will be taken off, and so you've got to be a little bit careful. The main reason I'm not trading it actively in the account, and you don't see me talk about it too much, given that I would talk about it a lot if it was moving, is that it's so quiet that I don't even want to encourage you to look at it. It's extremely, this could easily be hourly chart, right, or 15-minute chart, and it's the 4-hour chart. So you're having many 4 hours where the movement is 20 pips, and that's just not really what you want to trade. 20 pips or less, that's just crazy. So yeah, look, the buy in the euro, there's no rush to get into this trade. That we can use can definitely help the US dollar short term, and that could pressure the euro dollar. I'm happy with a stop to entry here, see how it plays out. I still suspect we're going higher, and I'll be playing it long. If it goes lower, then I'll have to reevaluate where I want to buy. But it's definitely still a buy for me longer term. So I'm happy for it to go lower. It's just, I'm not going to stand in the way of it going lower either. I'll just get stopped at entry if that happens. Now dollar yen, I haven't really got in dollar yen. Now dollar yen is I'm a buyer of dollar yen just generally, and I didn't get any of the rally that we got post French elections. It does look like it wants to push higher towards the 112 to 115 sort of range, break back into that. But if you're not in already, there's no reason to be buying so close to that 112 resistance. And that news may not be as straight away positive as you'd expect in the US. There, it's not the hugest victory; it's just a small victory for Trump. It's not healthcare or tax plan or anything like that. It's just averting a government shutdown. That's let's not write home about that. Yeah, waiting for the market to fall might be a good plan. Definitely dollar yen falling wouldn't hurt the long euro play. It's just you got to ask yourself why it's happening. If it's a Fed dovish, then obviously euro will be above 110. But other than that, the NFP is the big one. If they open the door to the Fed rate hike, given data remaining strong or solid, and the NFP comes in weak, it makes the NFP more important. So if they hold the percentages stay around 60% because of the language, they're sort of mixed and neutral and open to raising rates in June, then the NFP on Friday becomes bigger. Yeah. So today we have to wait to the US session. It's on a positive footing. Everything looks pretty good. You really wouldn't want to fade any of these trades just yet. So you really wouldn't want to be buying the euro or buying the pound pre-US session while the dollar yen's on a bit of an attempt higher. If the dollar yen goes higher, then these ones might be pressured lower. US session will dictate how this plays out today. The US yields, they did fall back below 2.3 after the weak GDP number, but that's backwards looking data. Remember, it's not it's not the future, and the future could be brighter. If you're talking to economists looking at that data internally, they said it's actually pretty solid. So yeah, we're just attempting to get back to this 2.3 after the US GDP pushed it back underneath it, and so by no means do I look at this chart and say, oh yeah, that's definitely going higher. Yeah. So that's really required really for the dollar yen to go up, and so yeah, I'm not totally convinced here about some of these moves. Just quickly on the news over the weekend, in case you missed it, let's a little bit of a good wrap up about everything. Here is UBS macro here. I'll bring that up for you. Alright, so since the New York close, US dollar's risen a little bit on the back of US government shutdown will be averted. Oil's under pressure today after the back huge recount showed another increase. The US considered a range of options which you haven't heard of. More of yet just because there was a North Korean missile test over the weekend. Japan was a bit upset about it, but no one really else went nuts. In the UK news, which was the negative news, where the pound sort of shrugged it off, the EU has endorsed a tough negotiation stance towards the UK, and UK responded saying it's bracing for confrontation. In terms of the UK polls, the polls showed a narrowing, yeah. Trump again threatened to break away from NAFTA over the weekend, looking to renegotiate all the trade deals actually. And that was the main things there that I saw. Chinese PMIs, yeah, over the weekend were pretty strong. Still above 50, a little bit lower than April's. Than March's, but nothing crazy. The market has shrugged that off. A small pullback. Aussie economists are calling the top of the Australian housing market. I have not read that. Aha. That's from... That's something for me to read later. I'm in Australia, so I don't want to distract from that. This is not really FX related. It is down the track, but just not now. Any other news? No. Alright, the week ahead. Yeah, sorry I couldn't give you excited about today's trading. It's just not going to be exciting. I suspect we're going to be very quiet until the US session, and then probably just mild US dollar strength in the US session. The police are coming. They found me. I'm done. So it's been a good run, guys. Yeah, I live in the middle of Sydney. It's near police and fire station. So yeah, that's pretty common. Alright, so the outlook for this week, RBA on hold, no significant change in forecast. Expect ongoing emphasis on housing risks. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, the housing risk stuff, they're not really trying to deal with it themselves though. They're trying to get macro-prudential measures, so they're trying to get APRA and them to sort of to change the lending standards. Remember, CPI was a little less hot than expected last week. New Zealand, New Zealand, New Zealand. No data there. Alright, FOMC meeting. Alright. Any expectations here? Alright, the May meeting will not see a follow-up hike. Ooh, good. Surprise, surprise. To our mind, we'll wait till June. However, market business will be looking for any further guidance in the timing. Yes, that's what he talks about. Timing of the guidance of balance sheet changes is actually what hasn't been given out yet either. So this is where they start to sell off some of the bonds they bought or let them expire. That's pretty big for the market. That's the same as rate hikes in terms of pressuring yields. And they're looking for a bounce back to 180k. With broadly staying around 4.6%. Alright, so that's the data ahead. It's not, I mean, it's a pretty big week in terms of the FOMC. It could potentially be a big week if the FOMC changes things. Otherwise, we'll be watching political, sort of making sure that French elections don't become closer. Right, so the French elections, the second round is on this next weekend, and the polls are still wide by 20 points. Macron should win. They are tightening a little bit, but any scandal, right, would definitely lead the euro down. Now, anything like that would probably be a good buying opportunity. Any sort of weakness just pre-game as well, probably a good buying opportunity of the euro. I think everything will work out pretty fine in the end, depending on the scandal, of course, but yeah, nothing to go crazy about. Yeah, and probably we have to wait for a reason for the pound to go lower, depending on that reason, whether we buy that dip. It didn't get to 130 yet. I thought it might get up there. It's still sort of slowly grinding up. It took a week to go another 100 points, which is pretty slow for the pound. can see there's multiple resistance zones from previously, just here and all the way up. So it's it can go higher, but you know, what do we need? You need good news, or you need US dollar weakness probably. The sharp move's a little bit done. You look, it can just grind higher slowly, but the sharp move's probably done. When you keep on buying higher, that means that you're buying pound yen higher and higher. You know how pound yen likes to reverse, right? You know, so it's a little bit of a dangerous one. In fact, it's a pattern of rallying and falling. Apart from that one, which was like a double rally, it's pretty standard sort of maneuvers. We haven't got the. I don't think we've got the news back, you know, to back a move to say 150 quickly. 150 is very achievable though. You know, that's, you know, what, pound 133 and dollar yen 115. Not even that. You don't even need that to get there. Just want to quickly check Aussie yen. Haven't checked that for a while, and given the movement of the Aussie and the really should have bought some down here underneath 82. I was looking at it. I liked it just as a proxy for dollar yen as well. But Aussie, when an Aussie broke 75, I was a little concerned about the whole trade. But and that at this time the iron ore was under a lot of pressure, so yeah, definitely missed that. Aussie yen's a fairly good one to trade on dips. Yeah, missed that. So Euro yen is probably the trade to be watching here. Actually, if you're looking at a trade which has huge potential because of the euro ability to rally and dollar yen ability to rally, this downward trend line, which is part of a multi-year downward trend, you know, sort of scenario. If it breaks higher, then you know the move to 130s really makes a lot of sense to me, and it can come in multiple ways. But I'm looking for opportunities to buy the euro yen on dips. Very shallow so far, and pressuring the top side here that we're probably going to break higher in the coming days, given there's good news and the market is pretty solid here on the euro on dips too. After the ECB couldn't hurt it. Therefore, what's going to hurt it? Macron? I don't think so. You know, French elections will help, not hurt. You might get another little extra 100 points out of that come Monday next week. You know, the danger is a dovish Fed, and a dovish Fed's going to hurt the dollar yen a lot, but it's also going to help the euro a lot. And you know, if the dollar yen can find support in low 110s and the euro's breaking 110, perhaps then that will be just a good setup for, you know, wherever the euro yen is might be going sideways in that scenario. It's a good setup for the euro yen to go higher as well. So if you get an opportunity this week to buy it on the dip, for whatever reason, we'll discuss it because we'll be trading NFP live. Euro yen might be the way we play NFP this week, and you know, usually we play dollar yen because it's so streamlined its reaction. But we'll be doing live NFP again, so it's that'll be the way I'll be looking at it. All right. Well, look, yeah, pretty quiet because of the holidays, and like I said, expect it to remain quiet today. We'll check in tomorrow. You know, hopefully we've got a little bit of a move high here in the euro yen. I'm not got too much exposure at all actually to euro yen at the moment, but it doesn't hurt, you know, to get more confidence in it by rising up. You know, even if it rallies and then you get a dip, you can still buy that dip. Is still showing strength. I don't know, if you buy here, it's okay still too, but you might be buying a little bit high. If you want me to look at particular pairs, some of those crosses are a bit interesting at the moment too, like the pound Aussie. You know, let me know. Pound Aussie is obviously pulling back a little bit from recent highs. There is interest to buy it on dips. Probably wait until the previous peak, yeah. Let it pull back. Let the Aussie have its fun. And it's not really the pound driven, right? So it's just Aussie rebounding. and then buy that dip. So that when you come to sell the Aussie, just glance across, you know, if you're happy to sell the Aussie up here, because this way you get a little bit more exposure, a little bit more speed to the Aussie rather than just trading against the US dollar. So if it gets up to 75.50, it might be down here at 171. Otherwise, it's probably not worth it just right now anyway. Yeah, Euro Aussie's having a pullback too. Yeah, Euro Aussie can go back further. Probably 144. I'll have a look around. Alright guys, good luck with your trades. I'm not going to recommend a trade today. I'm going to sit on the sidelines, wait for everything to fully open tomorrow, wait for the US reaction. And you know, we'll have plenty of trading opportunities this week. Main trades I'm looking to do are buy the Euro and the Pound on pullbacks, sell the Aussie on a rally, buy Dollar Yen on a bigger pullback, buy Euro Yen on a pullback. Those are the main opportunities. Alright guys, trade safe.